Any focus? Okay, let's see if I can reduce this to 10 minutes. The summary is Stephanie Cook allegedly embezzled more than $10,000 and fled to Canada. Okay, that happens even in a loving, diverse, and inclusive society that is comics. But when you go to Bleeding Cool to find the article, it's missing. Weird. In fact, when you search Stephanie Cook embezzlement, the top articles are from Comicsgate. Why didn't the rest of the comics media cover the issue? Stephanie Cook tried to cancel Blatant Northcott a few months ago. She went on this long harassment campaign. And she did this, SGWs do this weird thing where they will misspell your name so you can't search out articles about yourself. That's just a coward's move. If you're going to talk smack about somebody, at least, hell, you should probably at them. But at least spell their name correctly so when they do a word search, they can find it. Then Blake said, "Hey, you mentally ill nutcase, please leave me alone." Cook said that yes, she was mentally ill, and she shouldn't be shamed for being a crazy cat lady. You don't get to act like a crazy asshole, then when you get called crazy, use it as a shield. Get off of Twitter if you have legitimate mental illness. What makes all of this even funnier is they raise this shield of comics should be diverse and inclusive, but then they use that to protect them from all their horrible behavior. They'll use it to explain anything they do, because if they're on the side of diversity, then they can never be held accountable. They can almost do no wrong as long as the rules of the oppression hierarchy are obeyed. If you accuse most people of embezzlement, they will deny it and then ask you to prove it or risk a defamation lawsuit. But Cook said it was a shitty thing to accuse her of on her birthday, and she protected her tweets. Oh yeah, and she fled the country to hide in Canada to maybe escape prosecution, allegedly. That seems a little suspicious for someone who didn't steal $10,000. Why wouldn't you stay in America and work to clear your name? Doesn't running and hiding in a foreign country seem a bit like, well, exactly what it is, fleeing prosecution? And isn't it in the industry's interests to clear up the issue? If she's a bad egg, why not call her out and get rid of her? Because she's an SGW with a vagina who is friends with other SGWs? Is Rich Johnston simping for Stephanie Cook's sweet cookie? See, I have heard that he has a history of simping for the ladies in the industry and giving favorable coverage. Is your dignity worth those free blowjobs? Well, yes, it probably is, because BJs are awesome. I guess I'll give him a pass on that. I would probably give you a good review for a BJ also. Don't judge. This is in reference to the Heidi McDonald interview, and they say, too bad she wasn't asked why she ignored the pleas of a living legend in the comics business, accusing his former employee, Stephanie Cook, of felony theft, and making very public statements about it that were published in the media. Multiple sources backed up his claims, and a criminal case was started. For some reason, Comics Beat and all other comic book websites either ignored the story or memory hold it later. The workplace of Cook's fellow Whisper Network comrade, Heidi McDonald, did publish an interview with Cook a little over 2 years after Willingham filed a police report that opened the criminal embezzlement case against Cook, which remains active. However, there was no mention of the criminal charges in the interview, and Cook wasn't asked why she left the States to return to Canada after the charges were filed. She did offer this comment: "There are a lot of problems with the comic book industry, as anyone who's been in it for a while can tell you. I think some of those problems could be solved with transparency." Oh, okay. It appears McDonald was willing to discuss transparency as applies to the men in the comic industry, but not her friends in the Whisper Network. Again, there's no mention of the embezzlement charges lobbied against Cook in the article. For that matter, there's no mention of it anywhere on the Comics Beat website, save one lone commenter with a very good memory and an inquisitive mind who asked about the case down below in the comment section of the Transparency interview. He says, "What happened with the accusations that she embezzled money from Bill Willingham? Was that ever resolved?" Comments are closed. Seems like a double standard when less than a year before, Heidi published news that Comics Pro Professional Retail Orgs was investigating misappropriation of funds by co-founder Gary Dills. Embezzlement stories by men were apparently fair game. Other comics websites also carried the same Dills criminal story, but when she went looking for the Stephanie Cook story, Penny found nothing at comicsbeat.com or anywhere else. Odd. Isn't it time to ask Heidi about the double standard instead of jokingly dismissing what's really going on? Stephanie is a Canada-based writer, podcaster, critic. She founded various websites where she says she endeavors to give back to the comics community that she loves. She says she does it because it can be extremely toxic and discouraging at times, but I really believe in the potential of what the comics industry can become. I want to help steer that ship towards progress, inclusivity, transparency, and to just generally be better. Okay, these people are taking something that was working and they're now making it something that doesn't work. And all these people who have these great ideas about how to make the industry better, the first thing to do is look at them and go, okay, well, what have you accomplished? How have you made your industry? What have you sold? What comics have you sold? What graphic novels? What have you done? And it turns out a lot of them haven't done anything. They take something that's already functioning perfectly well and they act like parasites to destroy it. The business is not to make things progressive or inclusive. That's not equal to being better. Being better is selling more products. If people like your products, they'll buy more of them. But you're trying to make your industry actually smaller by making it more inclusive, which you don't really mean inclusivity, because then that includes diversity of thought. Gail Simone had a tweet yesterday about what comic book hero would be a libertarian, and almost everyone in the comments responded very negatively because they equated libertarian with right-wing libertarian. And so almost everyone in the comments were saying superheroes have to be socialists. And you look at the people who are writing these comics, editing, almost everyone in the industry who have political views, social views, they're 100% left-wing. There's no diversity of thought in the comics industry whatsoever. And that's affecting your product in a negative way because, well, you can see for yourself that they're not doing as well as they could be. So she takes something that is already in existence and is successful. It's like standing on the shoulders of giants, and she's just peeing on their heads. She's taking something and making it worse by making it inclusive. They did this to Dungeons and Dragons too. And they say comic community must help foster safer and more inclusive spaces for all. These are just retarded buzzwords to get you a paycheck. They did this with D&D. They say, oh, we're fans, but we want to change everything about it. Well, then you're not a fan, are you? Well, how long have you been in this hobby? Oh, I just got into it, and you want to change everything about it. Okay, well then possibly you're not who you say you are. It's more likely that you're a parasite. So if you get publicly accused, someone with some background to them, publicly accuse somebody of a felony crime, would you expect the comics media to report it? The media sure made a big deal when the late, great Stan Lee accused his assistant of theft, but when New York Times bestseller Bill Willingham, the man responsible for the award-winning recently accused his assistant of embezzlement, the story got memory hold. His assistant has been very eager to break into the business years early, and everything was presumably going well until it began to notice that a lot of his money had gone missing. 3 years into her employment, Willingham became convinced that his assistant had betrayed him. She had embezzled in excess of $10,000 from his accounts. He filed charges with the local police, and a criminal case was launched. Female assistant in question just happened to be one of the Whisper Network's rising stars, none other than Stephanie Cook, who blocked me, and I guess must be on a block list. If you follow Bleeding Fool or Bounding into Comics, you're probably on a block list, because I don't follow too many of the other big Comicsgate guys. In fact, he made the incident very public, releasing the news to the comics industry press with the following statement. It needs to be reported that during the 3 years she worked for me, Stephanie Cook embezzled, outright stole from me to a total in excess of $10,000. Unfortunately, I can't give you anything exact figure because we're still uncovering instances of theft. Pressing police charges, got a case number, does a little interview. Everyone knew that this happened. They also told me this was considered an open secret in the comic business. For some reason, I spoke with them privately discussing Cook's embezzlement since 2015. None dared bring it up publicly. For them, Cook's name had strangely become a kind of Voldemort who cannot be named. Perhaps because of her reputation and media connections, they're worried about some kind of backlash to their careers if they spoke out. Here's the thing. Even if everything they said was true, here's the thing. Yes, even if everything, if you were to speak out and accuse somebody and be vindicated and say, oh yeah, I believe William Henn. I've seen the evidence. Cook probably did this thing. Even if you were right and she got arrested and prosecuted and charged and sued civilly and whatever, you would still be on the blacklist. You'd still be banned, even if you were right. It doesn't matter. Because being right is less important than being on the right side of history. Like, supporting the narrative is the most important thing, even if you have to commit some crimes to do it. Anyway, you can check out this article with the archive below. Like, comment, subscribe, guys, and I'll see you on the next episode.